All right, good morning, everyone. My name's Jesse Hildebrand, and welcome to another exciting session of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those who have never joined us before, Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants is all about bringing adventure, science, and conservation into classrooms around the world. Today, I'm excited to say we're joined by 5 classes from across North America. I'll give them a big chance to do a shout out. So first, we've got Mrs. Hamilton's class from Bellevue Elementary in Rogers, Arkansas. Awesome. Love the enthusiasm, guys. All right, we've got Mrs. Hopkins' class from Upper Thames School in Mitchell, Ontario. All right. We've got Mrs. Martin's class from Ray Lawson School in Brampton. Hi, guys. We've got Mrs. Robiard's class from Austin, Texas. And if their technical difficulties have figured themselves out, we've got Mrs. Raymond's class from Greenbrier Middle in Brampton as well. Hi, guys. We can see you. We can't hear you, but the enthusiasm is there. All right. Oh, they're back. The reason we're all here is to go on a virtual field trip to the aquarium. We're joined today by Leah Neal, who is the senior aquarist and dive safety officer at the aquarium, which means that she takes care of all the animals and all the people too. Today we're going to be dealing with the zebra sharks and finding out exactly how you train them so that they will be willing to have some medical interventions. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Leah. Thanks so much for being with us here today, Leah.
No problem. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. It's pretty loud back here. We have all the pumps running and whatnot. But we're sitting here with Dave. Dave is our aquarist. Say hi, Dave. There's Dave. He takes care of our zebra sharks and our reef sharks. What I'm going to do today is show you about how we train our zebra sharks. So one thing that we do when we can is we try to train the animals for certain behaviors that create a less stressful environment for them when we need to do something like a medical procedure. So we've started with the zebra sharks, and I'm going to get as close as I can with Dave here. Because they're pretty excited about food. So what we use is called positive reinforcement. And what that means is basically rewarding them with something that they like to do a certain behavior. So just like, I'm sure your parents like it when you behave, or your teachers like it when you behave, and maybe you get a sticker, you get an allowance or something like that. It's the same with the zebra sharks. So what we've trained them to do, or what Dave's trained them to do, is come over for food and allow him to touch them. So as you can see here, Dave's getting right in there. And you can see that the zebra sharks keep coming back. So it's not something that they feel is negative. It's a pretty positive experience for them. And the goal of this is for us to be able to handle these animals. So what Dave's going to do, I think, with this one, maybe, he's hanging on to him right now. But what he's working up to is to be able to flip this animal over. Maybe. Maybe not on that go around. So what we want to be able to do is flip the animal over. That way we can see its underside. Sharks are pretty strong. As you can see, they have really strong muscles. So the only way to be able to handle them really safely is for them to be calm about it. The other thing we do often is we like to make sure that, like I said, they're nice and healthy. So being able to get a nice up-close visual is something that helps us be able to do that. Another thing that helps us to be able to do that is to be able to take blood and measurements. And we can do that when they're really still. And what Dave's been training is for them to come and sit with him, and he can flip them over. And with one of them, we've gotten to the point where we can actually do a blood draw without restraining the animal at all, just holding them upside down. See if we've got this one. Nope. So what he's giving them right now is some fish. I think he's got some mahi fillets, which they seem to be pretty excited about. There are some other sharks in the tank as well. Oh, and we've got some squid. Also exciting. In the squid usually is a vitamin, and that just helps replace some of the nutrients that are lost in the food. All the food we use is already frozen restaurant quality food. The reason we do that is to not introduce any parasites or bacteria into the tanks with any of the animals. So sometimes when you freeze the food, though, you lose some of the vitamins. So we replace them back in a vitamin. somebody might be full. So I don't know how well you guys can see, but we've also got several other different types of sharks in here. We've got black tip reef sharks, white tip sharks, and some bamboo sharks. So let's see if we've got some cooperation out of this shark. There we go. She's holding pretty still. That was a pretty good one. So of course, I'm sure you're wondering why Dave's not afraid, because he's sitting in a tank surrounded by a bunch of sharks. And the reality is that to be afraid of sharks is a myth. Okay, sharks are generally, oh, there we go. We've got a nice flip over there. So as you can see, maybe, can you turn this way at all, Dave? There we go. We've got this shark right on her back here. You can see she's not really moving around. Very calm. Getting rewarded. There we go. You can see you slipped her over and let her go. Nice and calm. And I'm sure you'll see she's going to turn around and come right back for some more. So not a negative experience at all. She was happy with that. So what I was going to say is sharks get a bad reputation. So for the most part, they don't want anything to do with humans. They're approaching Dave right now because Dave obviously has food for them. But in the wild, they're searching out their food, which is fish. It's not people. So most interactions, or when people get bitten by sharks, it's usually an investigation. So sharks come in the shallow waters, they're trying to feed, and they're looking for food. They'll bite someone thinking that maybe it's food. They look like a seal or something they might eat. And then they usually let go because they are not interested in people. Unfortunately for people, sharks have really sharp teeth, so that usually ends up in a pretty serious injury. But for all of the shark incidents that happen with humans, there's actually way more sharks killed every year by humans. Oh, he's always got a flip at my most important point. Here we go, though. There we go. That's great. There we go. Dave's got her right close so you can get a good look at the underside of that shark there. Very nice, Dave. What I was saying now was that more sharks are killed every year by humans than humans are killed by sharks. Sharks are killed for their fins most often and caught as bycatch. You actually have a greater chance of being struck by lightning or killed taking a selfie at this point than you do of being attacked by a shark. So there's really nothing to be afraid of. You can see these gals are really gentle. I think I was saying that these are called zebra sharks. They don't look much like zebras now, so they've got lots of spots, but when they're little, they have stripes that make them look like a zebra. They can get pretty long, up to 9 feet. Of course, as you can see, most of that is their tail. They actually lay eggs, and we have some, I don't know if you can see very well. Oh, Dave's going to pull one out for us. That's what a zebra shark egg looks like. And the embryo will develop inside the egg, and then it'll hatch, and the shark will swim away. Sharks do not care for their young. Some of them do give live birth, but any species of sharks, they either give birth or they lay their eggs and they swim away. They don't actually care for them at all. Inside the egg is a yolk, and that's what the baby will feed off of until it's big enough to hatch out of the egg and swim out on its own. One thing I guess I didn't mention with these sharks is that you'll see Dave's kind of stopping their movement. And these particular sharks don't need to keep moving in order to breathe. That's usually your deeper water pelagic sharks. They call them obligate ram ventilators, and that just means they need to keep moving in order for the oxygen to move over their gills. Zebra sharks and actually many species of shark have a muscle called a spiracle right behind their gill slits, and it allows water to move over their gills even when they're sitting on the bottom. So zebra sharks, although they're up and swimming now, are actually bottom-dwelling sharks, and if they're sitting on the bottom, they can breathe just fine. Sharks that you see in here, I think maybe you can see them, do need to keep swimming in order to breathe. But we also have white tips just fine, and the bamboo sharks can also sit just fine. Oh, it looks like the black tip reef sharks are getting a little food too.
So, Leah, while Dave's feeding the sharks, could you tell us a little bit more about some of the other animals you have in the aquarium as well?
What's that?
Could you tell us about some of the other animals you have in the aquarium as well?
Sure, we have lots of animals in the aquarium. We have from teeny tiny fish in our rainbow reef exhibit to sharks even bigger than these ones called sand tiger sharks. They're in our dangerous lagoon exhibit. We have two really big sawfish in there as well. So they kind of look like a ray, but they have a really long nose with lots of spikes like a saw coming off of it. We have two green sea turtles. Kind of the way that the path of the aquarium, the way you take the path of the aquarium, the first gallery you see is Canadian waters. So we're obviously Ripley's Aquarium of Canada, so we wanted to make sure that we represent the animals that are found in and around Canada. So that's the first gallery. And then we move into kind of more of the tropical fish, so rainbow reef. And we have a very long tunnel. It's the longest tunnel in North America right now that goes through our pit, so you can be underwater and see all the sharks without getting wet. So that's great. And then we kind of move through what we call our Discovery Center, which is where our horseshoe crabs are. And usually give them a nice pat. And then we move through some of the smaller tanks where we have sea dragons and lionfish and seahorses and some coral that's actually alive. Most of the coral in the aquarium is not alive, so it's all fake. Never want to take that much coral out of the wild. And also it takes a long time for coral to grow and a lot of really bright lights. And then we move to planet jellies. And we got a lot of jellyfish. We have some Pacific sea nettles and moon jellies and spotted jellies and upside down jellies. And then we move to back up to towards the end where we have a big stingray exhibit with lots of stingrays. And there's actually a shallow end where you can touch the stingrays when they come by.
Excellent. So before we go to question and answer, is there anything else you want to show us with the sharks or tell us about the zebra sharks?
I think we're okay. Dave, did you have anything to add about the zebra sharks?
I guess all I'd add is that maybe the sharks will let me flip them over now. But it takes time. So when I first got in the water, they're naturally so away.
Okay, hold that thought because I don't think they can hear you. So Dave's talking right now. One thing he wants you to know is that although they're coming around and up to him now, that it took a long time for them to get like that. So when he first started getting in the water, they would avoid him. And over time, they would come closer. You want to continue, Dave?
Yeah, so, I mean, you do it in steps. So I don't just try and grab them immediately. Do something as simple as trying to get the sharks to come close to me and then feeding them. Maybe I'm using tongue instead of my hands. You can then progress to gentle touching, and you'll see that most sharks aren't at the same stage. So the one that I'm looking at is the same one each time. So that's Drew. So Drew is just farther along the training. She's more comfortable with being flipped and held. She fought a little bit today. Sometimes, they get a little awkward. Biggie, she starts way too excited, and then she starts to calm down. You kind of hold her for a bit, so that's what I'm trying to do. Even after I held her, even if she's not 100% comfortable, I want her to hold her. And then when she gets to the point where I want to keep feeding her, then hold her. Eventually, I should be able to just let me do Drew, hold her kind of like a pizza done, and then go.
Okay, so I don't know how well you can hear that because we've got the pumps going on back here, and I'm using headphones with a microphone so you can hear me better. But basically what Dave was saying is that you have to take these in steps, this training in steps. And also that the sharks are individual. So even though they're both zebra sharks, one of them, Drew is the name of the shark, is more comfortable. And she's farther along in her training than the other one. The other one's name is Biggie. And Biggie gets a little too excited when she comes. So usually it's Dave will give her a few pieces to kind of calm down and then just do slight movements. So the animal that he's been able to flip has been Drew because Drew is farther along in the training. So when he first started, he would start just rewarding them for coming close to him. So he started off using tongs. So kind of standing just in the water with tongs until they got comfortable with that. And then it was feeding them in the water while he was close to them, but not touching them. And then once they got used to that, it was some gentle touching while he was in the water feeding them. And then it progressed to being able to stop their movement. And then maybe a slight rollover, not rolling them over all the way, but slightly. And then with Drew, as you can see, it's progressed to allowing us to flip her all the way over. And with Biggie, we're not quite there yet, but we're still working on it. And Dave wanted to let you know that they were a little saucy today. So not as well behaved as they usually are, which also happens.
Well, saucy sharks just make for that much better viewing. All right. So Leah, I'm going to turn it over to question and answer, and we'll give each class a chance in turn to ask you a little bit about the aquarium. So first, we'll go to Mrs. Hamilton's class from Bellevue Elementary. Your microphone's muted, guys. If you could demute it, and then come on. So we still can't hear you, Miss Hamilton's class. What I might do is save your question. Oh, you're trying. Try again.
Hear you.
We can hear you. So Miss Hamilton's class, you guys figure that out. We'll go to one other class and we'll come back.
Okay.
Oh, we're good.
I think we're ready.
We're ready.
Hi, my name is Ashlyn Hampton from Miss Hamilton's class, Bellevue Elementary in Rogers, Arkansas. And here's one of my questions. Are zebra sharks an endangered species?
I that question, but I did hear, are zebra sharks an endangered species?
Yes, that's right, Leah.
Yeah, they're not endangered. They are a threatened species, or they're vulnerable. And that just means that they need more information, but there is a chance that in the future, if we don't take steps to protect zebra sharks, that they could become endangered, but they are not yet.
Good question. All right, we'll go to Mrs. Hopkins' class now.
Who are sharks predators?
So, Leah, are all sharks predators?
Oh, are all sharks predators? For the most part, they are considered predators, but there's actually the biggest shark is called a whale shark, and they feed on really small plankton. So they don't eat fish, they don't have teeth, and they come up to the surface and they feed on really, really, really small, tiny critters. So they aren't sharks that are fish eaters necessarily. So no, I guess the answer is not all species of sharks, but the majority of them are.
Excellent. All right, we'll go to Mrs. Martin's class.
How long do the sharks live?
So how long do the sharks live, Leah?
Okay. Well, that's a good question, and it really varies. It's going to be hard for us to tell how old any shark or a lot of these animals are unless we were with them since they were born. There's really not a way to tell, and unfortunately, even though we would love it if they could talk, they can't tell us. So we can only generally go by their size. But most sharks, they think at this point, can live upwards of 30 years. So we've got a few sharks in our dangerous lagoon exhibits that are going on 20 years old.
Excellent. All right, we'll go to Mrs. Robillard's class.
How much fish do your sharks eat?
How much do the sharks eat? So again, that varies on what type of shark that they are. Basically, we feed them a percentage of their body weight. Sharks in the wild are, they will eat as much as they can find in one sitting. So they've got to go out and they've got to hunt and they've got to spend a lot of energy in order to be able to find food. So they may eat one big meal and they might not eat again for 3 weeks to a month if they can't find another meal. So they're going to eat as much as they can. Since the sharks here always have food available for them, we control how much they eat so they don't get too fat, you know? So they're all fed a percentage of their body weight. So we take their weight or we estimate their weight, and then it's all based on that. For some of the slower moving sharks, it's anywhere around 2% of their body weight. But for our faster moving sharks, the black tips and the sandbars, it can be up to 10% of their body weight. And we usually feed
Just as a quick,
because their metabolism is not fast. We will feed them usually 2-3 days a week, not every day.
as a quick follow-up, Leah, how much weight in food do you guys go through at the aquarium every week?
We go through a lot of food at the aquarium. Right now, we're basically right around 800 pounds a week of food, and most of that is for our largest exhibit, which is 750,000 gallons. Right now, we've got 12 sand tigers in there, 4 sandbars, 2 sawfish, a rough-tail ray, and 2 sea turtles, and about 5,000 fish. So that tank alone gets right around 70 pounds of food. And then on a shark feed day, which is 3 days a week, it's at 125 pounds of food. So it's up there.
Excellent. So we'll go to Mrs. Raymond's class now. You guys will have to demute your own microphone, unfortunately.
Okay, we've got it. All right, step in the picture.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Big voice, big voice.
How do you clean the tank?
How do you clean the tanks, Leah?
So some of the smaller exhibits, we can use scrub brushes that are on poles, and we clean them that way. For this exhibit that you're looking at, and for all of our bigger exhibits, we get right on in with the animals. So like Dave was just sitting in here now, he'll put on scuba gear, and he'll go right down to the bottom, and we use some doodlebug pads, kind of like a sponge, to clean the windows, and use scrub brushes to clean the decor. And it's usually a lot of effort, but it's a lot of fun at the same time.
Excellent. Now, about halfway through the hangout, we were joined by a sixth class. You're joined by Mr. Huang's class from Courcelette Public in Toronto. So if you guys have a question, go right ahead.
What is the shark's life cycle?
Did you catch that?
Leah, what's the shark's life cycle?
What's the shark's life cycle? So like we showed you for the zebra shark specifically, so Dave showed the eggs earlier. So they develop in the egg, and then they hatch out of the egg. And then they grow, and depending on how much food they can find or how much food is provided to them, they can grow quite quickly. The zebra sharks have taken care of the juvenile, and they can usually grow up to about 6 inches in a year. So it doesn't take them too long to become the 7 to 8 feet zebra sharks we're looking at now.
Excellent. Leah, do you have time for 6 more questions?
Sure.
Lovely. All right. So we'll go back to Mrs. Hamilton's class. Go right ahead, guys.
Just listen, girls and boys.
My name is Connor Hasty from Mrs. Hamilton's class, and how do the sharks react to humans?
I heard, how do the sharks react?
To humans.
What's the last one? Oh.
How do they react to humans, Leah?
Well, like I said, at first they're pretty nervous. So this is not something that we just hopped in and were able to get the sharks to come over to Dave. We had to spend a lot of time with them, and like you said, just taking it in steps and getting them so they weren't so nervous when they came closer to them. So generally they're pretty nervous when we're in and diving in the big shark tank. Pretty nervous of us. So we just try to stay out of their way. We clean and we stay nice and low and let them go where they want in the tank, and we move around them.
Excellent. So we'll go to Mrs. Hopkins' class now, guys. You guys have a second question?
Sharks friendly?
Are sharks friendly, Leah?
Are sharks friendly? They're friendly. Again, their natural interactions are not with humans, so it's not something that they know. It's something that they kind of have to learn. So I wouldn't really say that they're friendly. They're able to approach us here because we have food and they want the food, and that makes them nice and calm and able to approach us. But otherwise, they wouldn't necessarily be apt to approach us. I don't think you could call them friendly, but they're not mean either.
Somewhere in between friendly and mean. That's good.
Right.
We'll go to Ms. Martin's class.
Why are sharks important?
Why are sharks important, Leah?
Why are sharks important? So sharks are apex predators, especially out in the wild, and they have a very important job in keeping the ecosystem in a balance. So when you have kind of your top predators and your middle predators and your little fish and your invertebrates after that, and if any one of them is out of balance, then it can cause a die-off in the other. So if there are not a lot of sharks out there, and we have all the fish take over, and then they eat all the cleaners on the reef, so it's a very kind of broad description of what can happen, but that's kind of the role that sharks play, is to keep the bigger fish in balance.
Excellent question. All right, we'll go back to Mrs. Robillard's class.
How many different kinds of sharks are there?
How many different kinds of sharks are there, Leah?
There are over 450 species of sharks. We don't have that many here.
How many do you have?
We are at...
Excellent.
We're at 9.
So,
I believe. We're at 9 right now.
9?
Actually, they're discovering new species of sharks every day. The oceans are huge, and we have not explored anywhere near all of it. So there's always new species being discovered.
Excellent. All right, so we'll go back to Mrs. Raymond's class now. If you guys can demute your own microphone, that would be lovely.
Here we go.
But
Okay, yep.
What do you do when the people leave for the night?
So what happens?
I think the question was, what do we do when the people leave for the night?
That's correct.
So basically, it's nighttime for the animals. As far as being able to monitor the systems, we have to have the pumps running all the time in order to make sure the animals stay nice and healthy. We have a computerized alarm system, so all the tanks have sensors on them that can sense what the water temperature is and what the water level is and whether or not the pumps are running. And it's set up to be able to page our phones. So if something goes wrong, power is disrupted for some reason, or the water level is low, we get a page overnight. We can come on in and check it out and make sure everything's all set.
Excellent. And last but not least, we'll go back to Mr. Hang's class. If you guys could demute your own microphone, that would be lovely.
what is the most dangerous shark in the world?
So Leah, what's the most dangerous shark in the world?
What's the most dangerous shark?
Yes.
I think that was the question.
Yeah.
It depends on who you ask. Of course, everybody says the great white sharks, but actually there have been more records of people being bitten by bull sharks or lemon sharks. So I'd say probably those two are up there.
All right. Well, thank you guys for all your enthusiasm about sharks. What we do at the end of every hangout is I'm going to demute all your microphones, and you can say a big thank you to Leah. So go right ahead, guys. All right. So thank you guys for being with us here today, for exploring by the seat of your pants. Thank you, Leah, for a wonderful presentation. And have a lovely rest of your day, guys. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.